Today we're going to talk about chickens, the importance of calcium in their diet, and some calcium-rich treats that you can give them. You'll often hear a lot of people going on and on about how important protein is for chickens, and that is very important, especially in the wintertime or when they're molting. Their feathers consist of up to 80% protein, so when they're molting their feathers and growing new ones in the fall and winter, it is very important to give them protein. And contrary to what some people think, chickens are not vegetarians, so they do need protein sources. However, that's not all they need, and quite obviously, since they lay eggs, calcium plays a very vital role. And if you focus too much on the protein on not enough calcium, then you run the risk of them having weak bones, which could lead to injury, weak eggs, which would lead to obviously breaking shells, which is just a mess, and even egg binding, which could potentially be life-threatening if they're not able to pass the egg. The first and most obvious thing is to make sure that you're always providing them with a well-balanced layer feed diet. One that's specifically designed for mature laying adult hens. You can get it in a crumble form, which you see here, or in a pelleted form. Some places also offer a mash. I prefer to stay away from the mash just because it's very dusty. There's a lot of different brands out there. I really prefer the Nutrena NatureWise brand. This is not sponsored, so this is just a real honest review. It has prebiotics and probiotics in it. It has essential oils, it has herbs, it has yeast for gut health. And it even has yucca root, which helps naturally repel flies. I make sure that my hens have access to their layer feed at all times, day or night. You can even mix in food-grade diatomaceous earth into their food as a natural dewormer, because if your chickens have parasites, they're not going to be able to lay eggs as well, and anything that they eat may not be absorbed properly because the parasites are taking up all the nutrients. This is completely natural, and it even has some calcium in it. Which is nice because then there's no withdrawal period and you can still eat the eggs. Now, if your chickens are sick and if this is not cutting it for them, and if they really have a bad parasitic infection, please consult your vet for a recommendation on a stronger dewormer and follow any withdrawal periods that come with that medication. Luckily, I've never had that issue. And another good thing about this is this also keeps mites and bugs off of their feathers and their skin. They like to take a dust bath in it. This is a very good product. And I have other videos that go more into detail about their care, so check those out. So I won't go into too much detail about that today. We're just going to focus on the calcium. So here's another thing, oyster shell. You can get this at most feed stores, and it's a fantastic source of calcium. You can feed it in a few different ways. You can mix it into their feed, you can mix it in with treats, you can just toss it out for them, or you can do what I do, which is I got this cute little bird feeder. I hung it up in their enclosure. And they can just go up to it and free choice eat it whenever they feel that they need it. Or, if you want a more economical way to do this, you can take their eggshells and break them up and feed it back to them. Most people will cook or roast them first. You don't want to just toss in the eggshell without crunching it up first, because one, crushing it will make it easier for them to eat. And two, if the eggshell resembles an eggshell, they're going to start eating their eggs as they lay them, and you don't want that. Now I'll show you some different treats. The first one we're going to do is kale. And you can see the bugs ate it up a little bit. It looks a little rough, but the chickens don't care, so I'm going to give it to them. I grew this from a seed. This one's called dinosaur kale, and this one is called red Russian. Kale's very simple to grow. You can do it right at home. You don't need a ton of space. You can do it right in a raised bed if you don't feel like tilling up the ground. They like a lot of nitrogen, which is the first number you're going to find on your fertilizer bag. Some rich compost. Give them some water. Plant them early in the spring or late summer for a fall crop. And besides caterpillars getting to them, they're pretty simple. So I'm going to pick the ones that are too rough for me to eat or for me to sell, because I sell my produce. That way nothing goes to waste and the chickens will get a healthy snack. So a fun fact about kale is it actually has more calcium than milk. It contains 250 milligrams of calcium per 100 grams. And it has 4 times more vitamin C than spinach, which makes it great for boosting your immune system, or your chickens in this case. And if your chickens are healthy, they're going to lay more eggs and perform better for you. And then their eggs, in return, will be healthier for you to eat. Kale is also rich in vitamin E, beta-carotene, and is an excellent food if you want to support bone health, and in your chicken's case, eggshell quality, heart health, and eye health. There are some studies that even suggest that kale can help fight and prevent cancer. Now here's one that a lot of people always wonder about because spinach is also considered a superfood just like kale. And sorry, mine's looking a little rough. The spinach crop is about done for now because it's the heat of summer. Spinach hates the heat. I can do a fall crop, but this is about what I have left for now. Now spinach is very, very healthy. It's incredibly healthy. And you can feed it to your chickens, but do it in moderation, if at all. Because it's very rich in oxalic acid. I hope I pronounced that right. But that binds with calcium, which kind of inhibits the body from absorbing it as well as it could. So it's not something you want to feed on a regular basis, since chickens that are laying eggs regularly are going to need all the calcium they can get in their diet. As you can see, when it gets too hot, the spinach matures really fast and goes to seed, which is what this one did. So I am going to pull this out, and between the 16 chickens that I have, this little bit will not hurt them. Technically, you could give a little bit more than that, but I'm not going to because I always think, like, you know, why risk it? It's not worth risking it. Beet greens are yet another superfood for you and your chickens. And like I said before, if your chickens are eating this, they're going to be healthier, which means their eggs will be healthier. And when you eat the eggs, it's only benefiting you more. Beet greens are rich in calcium, vitamin K, copper, and iron, just to name a few. And yes, chickens can also eat the beetroot. I've found in my experience at least that pests don't really bother beet greens too much, so I don't have a lot to offer them. And you can eat these yourself, they're actually pretty good. The chickens are lucky today, they're going to get a lot of pretty leaves, not that they care, but... Oh, and while I'm over here, here's a look at my red romaine. They can also eat some lettuce, perfectly healthy for them, they really enjoy it. In one of my other videos, you probably also saw that I made a lettuce hanging basket for my hens. Now, as far as lettuce goes, you might want to avoid iceberg just because it's really, really watery and it doesn't have a lot of nutrients in it, whereas romaine has a lot more vitamins than iceberg. It has more protein. So romaine is definitely one of the better options. Here's some freckled romaine. And here's a look at my beautiful flower beds, and part of any kind of gardening is the fact that weeds will at some point show up. I've been staying on top of it this year as well as I can, but you can still see that some snuck in. These are dandelion greens. You probably know that it's one of the most iconic leaves, or weeds rather. And you can feed this to your chicken. Technically you can eat this too, as long as it wasn't sprayed with anything, obviously. The chickens can eat the leaf, they can eat the root, and they can eat the flower. And believe it or not, it's actually really, really healthy. Dandelion greens are rich in vitamins A, B2, and K, and calcium, just to name a few. So I'm going to add that into the chicken salad, meaning a salad I'm making for my chicken, not actual chicken salad. So see, chickens are great. They help you prevent food waste and they help clean up yard waste. And feeding them treats is such a good way to get them to bond with you too. They really are nice pets. And they're a lot smarter than some people realize. Alright, so I'm going to take this back to them and see how they enjoy it. You know what? This romaine looks really good. I'm actually going to pick some for myself and for some customers, but I'll give them a little bit too. They deserve it. I'll get some more kale while I'm at it. So some other ways that you can make your chickens healthier and the eggs healthier for you when you eat them is you could also add a little bit of flaxseed to your chicken's diet. It's rich in fiber, it's rich in omega-3 fatty acids, which is really, really good for heart health, reproductive health, eye health, brain health. Research says that it may even help prevent cancer. It can lower cholesterol. And studies have shown that when your chickens eat that, it makes the egg a lot healthier for you. You can also give them yellow squash, which you might not realize this because it's such a simple vegetable, but it's really, really healthy. It's rich in vitamins A, B6, C, folate, magnesium, fiber, phosphorus, and potassium, just to name a few. The list goes on. And it's so easy to grow. You just plant it late spring right directly into the ground. Use a low nitrogen fertilizer like a 5-10-10 or a 10-20-20. The seed germinates in about a week and they grow really fast and it produces a lot of squash all season long as the pests don't get to it. But you can try to control that. And I personally love the way it tastes, and you can see my chickens do too. They've been eating it from the inside out, so now it's just like the shell left. I'm going to have to clean this up because I don't know if they're going to eat the skin. They carved that one. Look at that, they're wasting no time. They love this time of year because they get lots of fresh treats. See, those are some calcium-rich foods that come to mind, simple ones that are easy to grow. Obviously, you can get them at the store too, but growing them yourself is just so much more fun, and it's healthier because it's so fresh. I'll probably make a video on this later this summer, but I'll touch on this briefly real quick just because it is getting really hot around here now. Some ways to keep them cool. Obviously, fresh greens like this help cool them down and rehydrate them, but you can also give them small amounts of watermelon and cantaloupe, which mine go crazy for. Yes, I am growing that, but it's not quite ready yet. It's still a little bit early in the season for that for where I live. And you can also give them cucumbers, which they really love, and it helps hydrate them. While we're on the topic of chicken health and nutrition and treats, I figured I'll really quickly touch on some toxic things so that way you know to avoid it. It's recommended not to give any raw or uncooked beans to chickens. Absolutely do not give them avocado, which might be hard to believe for some people because it's one of the healthiest foods for people, but a lot of animals can't eat these. Chickens can't, and don't give it to your dogs or cats either. This one's obvious, at least I hope it's obvious, but don't give them chocolate. Don't give them apple seeds or peach pits because they're toxic, especially in large quantities. See this weed? Chickens can eat a lot of weeds, but they can't eat this one. This is called a pokeberry, and it gets really tall, and eventually as it matures, it gets a bunch of little purple berries on it. Some birds, like mockingbirds, I believe, might be seen eating them, but don't give it to your chicken. Just don't risk it. It's not worth it. And they're very toxic to you and your dogs too, so be mindful of that if you see it. I'm actually going to pull that once I'm done making this video. My chickens are fenced in, so there's no way they can get to that, but I still don't want it maturing and spreading. We're going up to the big garden. Now, I talk about it a lot that if you have some stuff in your garden or some old food that didn't turn out right and you don't want it going to waste, you can give it to your chickens. And that's true for a lot of stuff. But in some cases, just use your best judgment, especially in the case of potatoes. We can't eat green potatoes and neither can your chickens. So if you have one that's going bad like that, just toss it out and get rid of it. Here you see some pumpkin plants. Once you have mature pumpkins, you can give it to your chickens. It's a great treat. They love it. And I've been told it acts as a natural dewormer too. You can see we lost one though. That's always so disappointing. I think bugs got to this one. Something dug that up, I don't know. Here's the cantaloupe and watermelon patch. Not ready yet, but they can enjoy that once it's ready. They love squash and zucchini. And of course they love corn, but I give it to them in moderation because it's sugary and sweet. But this is why I came up here, back on topic now of the things to avoid giving them. You can give them ripe tomatoes. That's perfectly fine. They love it. But you cannot give them the leaves of the tomatoes. It's in the nightshade family, and they're toxic to us and to your chickens. But the tomato itself is fine. Cucumbers are fine. And then I'll show you one more thing on the list of stuff not to give them. Just like tomatoes, the leaves of eggplant plants are also extremely toxic. So when you're cleaning up your garden at the end of the year, do not put this in reach of your chickens when you pull it out of the ground. Oh, and while I'm thinking of it, you can give them peppers, but don't give them the stem. If you ever have something that you're not sure about, either call a vet that would have a clear answer, or just err on the side of caution and avoid feeding it if it's something that you're not sure about or not comfortable about. It's always better to be safe than sorry. So that was it. I wanted to keep it quick and simple for you so that way you can get out there and get some treats for your chickens too that they'll really enjoy and that will make them healthier. I never want to overcomplicate things. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. So I hope this video helps you and your flock out. Please consider subscribing so that way you can follow along and learn more about chicken care and more about gardening and animals. Check out some of my other videos, and we will see you in the next one.